Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about, well, sort of review, but more to talk about, Haydn's folk song arrangements. Here is Volume 2. Well, it's not Volume 2. It is Volume 2, actually. Scottish Songs for George Thomson, Part 2. Haydn made more than 400 arrangements of Scottish and Welsh and British Isles folk songs for three major publishers. At the end of his life, really toward the end of his life, when he was going like gangbusters. Now, some of them he supposedly supervised with his student, who was Sigismund Newcomb, I believe it was, who also did some of them with him, because he was getting paid a lot of money. These things were all the rage. At least in the local market up in the UK back in the day. And to have Haydn's name attached to them was going to be a big seller. The main publisher he worked for was a guy named Thomson, George Thomson. And he just did hundreds of these things. And they're lovely. They're absolutely lovely. The arrangements are for voice and basically piano trio. We have here the Haydn trio Eisenstadt in this series. Now, all of them were recorded on Brilliant Classics. The full set is 18 CDs plus a CD-ROM. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, that's really, because considering that they're like, a minute or two each, I mean, that's really an amazing output at the very end of his life. And some people have, sort of poo-pooed them by saying, oh, well, he did all this work just for money. Huh? Like he shouldn't starve to death, as if money's a bad thing. And he could have been writing masses and oratorios and more symphonies and stuff and string quartets, and it's all just hooey. First of all, the fact that he did this doesn't mean doesn't mean that he would have spent the time doing things that we think are more important. For all we know, he could have spent the time napping. So he was an older guy. He was sort of quasi-retired in the late 17s and early 18s when most of these things came out. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that he seemed to really enjoy doing this. I mean, you don't do more than 400 of these suckers. I mean, I know the money was good, but still, he was only furnished melodies. And he was asked, at least in the case of Thomson, to do symphonies, as they call them. That is, preludes and interludes and other things with them. He was not given the texts. He wasn't even given the titles. He just was given the melodies, and they said, go for it, do it. And then once the arrangements were made, Thomson would attach the words to Haydn's version of the melody. So it's really was a peculiar thing. But Haydn, remember, was a master at folk music. I mean, he incorporated knowledgeable folk music. He was a man of the people. He was a peasant. He came from peasant stock. He grew up in rural Austria, singing Austrian and Slovakian and all kinds of, Slavic tunes and Hungarian tunes. All of these things found their way into his symphonies and chamber works and, instrumental music and his vocal works as well. I mean, he was totally comfortable with this type of music. I don't think that for one second he regarded doing this as writing down, as dumbing down his music, not just because he was familiar with the idiom, but also because he really regarded music as a gift from God, and that his job as a composer was to glorify God by using his God-given talent. And he never wrote down, there's no bad, low-quality Haydn in anything he did, and not here either. I mean, they're simple pieces. He adjusted his style to the medium. So no, you're not going to find, harmonic profundity of the type that you find in, say, the slow movement of the Opus 76 number 6 string quartet. It's just not what he was asked to do. But within what he was asked to do, he finds a tremendous range and variety and set these songs with great skill. Now, as I said, the full set is still around, actually, but it's expensive. It was 170 something. It's like $10 a disc on Brilliant Classics. It's not a super budgie issue, at least not anymore. I think it was when it first came out. But these things are also available in bits. Not all of them seem to still be in print. But the truth of the matter is, you don't need all of them. I mean, if you want 418 folk song settings, okay, then splurge. You could also find the complete set in Brilliant Classics Haydn edition, the big long box. At least the second Haydn edition, the one with all the extra stuff in it. Anyway, it really is remarkable that these folks have done them all, and they've done them all marvelously. So if you just get, Lorna Anderson soprano, Jamie MacDougall tenor, the Haydn trio Eisenstadt, there are many other versions of Haydn folk songs, selections and recordings of them. Emma Kirkby did a few of them, for example, on period instruments. The period instrument people like to do them too, because they can argue that no matter how dreadful the instruments sound, it must be authentic. Whatever. The bottom line is that these are beautiful performances, and anything in this series that you get your paws on is going to do it for you. You'll enjoy it. And if you really, really get into it, well, maybe you'll want to try and collect more or find more. But my point is not that you should have any one thing over any other, but rather that you should have something. You should sample this aspect of Haydn's output because it's really, really lovely. Little known, incredibly enjoyable, just relaxing and fun and a pleasure from first note to last. So as I said, this is volume 2. It's on Brilliant Classics. There's 4 CDs. You get a very nice booklet with all of the texts. I mean, and sensible notes. It's a class production all the way through. So give it a shot. Get some Haydn folk song arrangements. It's a little niche maybe in the universe of classical music, but an important one and a delightful one, and that's the most important thing. So keep on listening, friends, and thanks for joining me. Take care.